Okay, you clicked on this video. Yes, I did get all of these for free, which is crazy, but you're gonna have to wait until I get to the acquisitions section before you can hear the story and how I got all this Love Anime yarn for free. Hello, welcome back to the StitchWitch Podcast. I'm your host, Ourielle. I'm so excited that you are here with me today. If you are ready for another traditional podcast episode where I am telling you what I have knit on, what I've sewn on, and just generally all of my crafty antics, then grab something cozy, grab something to eat or drink, and let's get right into it. Okay, it seems like some of my friends back here are falling over and stuff, but yeah, it's been around 2 weeks since my last episode. I am happy to report we're reaching like the end of my little like YouTube notebook, and that's nice because I started this on the 1st of some year. I don't know what year, maybe 2021, and now we are ending it at the end of December, so that's nice. I'll have to start up a new notebook next year, but I have quite a few things to get through today. It's been, I think, around 2 weeks since my last episode, so yeah, just lots of fun knitting and crafting to kind of get up to. I am clearly not doing Craftmas because we've already reached what, like mid-December, and haven't been like uploading vlogs or anything like that, but I've been focusing a lot on actually making stuff and kind of getting good use out of the things that I've made and enjoying the process, and I think that's been really wonderful for me. But if you have any favorite Craftmas or Advent creators or anything like that who have been uploading a significantly higher number of videos compared to, you know, their usual speed, let me know. I'm always looking for new stuff to watch as I'm crafting, like sewing, knitting, that kind of thing. But I have quite a few FOs to get through, so let's start with my finished objects. So the first finished object is the beautiful fuchsia sweater that I'm wearing right now. This is my petiteknit Sunday sweater. Now, I picked this up when I was on vacation, and this meaning the yarn. I got 2 plates of Briggs & Little country roving at this cute little store called The Unruly Stitch. It's in Weston, Massachusetts. I previously thought it was in Waltham, Massachusetts, but it's next to Waltham. It's in Weston. And this is all I have left. 2 little tiny scraps. And I probably would have used exactly 200 grams, like the full length of the 2 yarns that I got, if I were slightly taller and I knit this, you know, to knit to my body size. But I can stand up to show you how big this is. It's actually not too cropped on me. Okay, so I don't know how useful that actually was. If it wasn't useful, I will upload a photo here of what it actually looks like on, because I wore it to work the other day. I was frantically knitting on this because I wanted to wear it to my holiday party, and I finished it in I think 6 days. Finished and blocked and off the blocking mats in 6 days, and I'm really pleased with it. I did a couple of modifications to make sure that while I was playing Yarn Chicken, I would have like a higher likelihood of actually being able to finish the project with the yarn that I intended. But yeah, when I went to the store, and I tell the story a little bit more in a different video called like my winter knitting queue. But I went to the store, they had just 2 plates of this in stock, they didn't have anything else. They also didn't really know what it was. Like I had asked, do you know what brand of like roving or unspun yarn this is? And they had said, oh, I think it's Woolly Workers Letlopi or Menchalopi. I don't remember which one is which. But they basically said they thought it was Wool Dreamers, and that, you know, based on the color and the dye lot, it was probably going to be that. I was like, oh, that's surprising, because I'm pretty sure Wool Dreamers, they ply, or they have their plates done in like a 2-ply, or, you know, what is 2 strands of pencil roving. And they were like, yeah, well, I think that's the only one that it is. We're going to ring it up as that. And then we had done some digging, and Millie from What's Millie Making finally actually said that I think this is the Briggs & Little. They have a new magenta colorway, and I think this is what you got. So this is actually the Briggs & Little country roving. It came in the 5 strands, and I had to ball them up into strands of 2. So what that effectively meant was I had to do 2, 2, 1, and then 2, 2, 1, and then apply the 2 ones together. And it was really challenging to do so, but the actual fabric and experience was so pleasant. The only other experience I've ever had was working with a nutiden, and I think somehow the nutiden unspun is even more fragile. And this is not like the contest of like whose unspun yarn is like the most fragile, but for sure the nutiden is like even more unspun. So I guess just as a comparison, because now like I'm getting into unspun yarn, this is 2 strands of, this is gonna be hard because I'm wearing the same color. Let's see. This is the 2 strands of the Briggs & Little, but if I pull apart the 1 strand, you can see it's still like a strand of yarn, and I can pull it and it doesn't necessarily fall apart immediately. It's still a strand. But if I take the nutiden, like I'm almost hesitant to just even put it here, it's barely a strand. So this is the mohair on the side. So let's separate that. That's my one strand. So you're dealing with a very, very different kind of texture here. This one is super, super thin, barely plied, like barely is holding it together. It's just barely yarn, you know? So the experience of knitting with this one was much more robust, and I was holding 2 strands of it together, and I didn't think it was gonna break. It didn't really like pose any issues for me. The only time I had issues was when, for instance, I was rolling around by my feet and then I had kind of gotten it caught on a shoe, or I was knitting in the car and then it got like stuck under something, you know, under the car. At that point, yes, sometimes I'll have issues and it breaks, but space splicing, very easy. Only thing I don't recommend is like not knowing your yardage. It's very, very stressful. I don't like playing yarn chicken. It's not something I typically like to do. And I actually enjoy overbuying yarn, so that way I have pretty cohesive scraps. That's something that I actually actively try to do. Like if I'm buying sweater quantities of something, I always like to round up like pretty significantly, so that way I have like a pretty good chunk of yarn that I can use to incorporate into a yoke or an accessory or something else. I just think it's easier, like mentally, to not have to stress out about losing yarn chicken, and also it contributes to like a more cohesive color palette in your wardrobe. So for me, this was like not pleasant. And the 2 things I did to mitigate some of the yarn chicken was, one, I knew I was short, so that kind of helped a little bit, and I modified the shape and the method of knitting this. So I didn't knit my regular size small, I knit a medium, but then I sized down my needles. So instead of knitting on a 5, 6, 7 millimeter, I knit on a 4, 5, 6 millimeter. Because I guess each time you wrap around the yarn, it's a little bit less, and so that should technically contribute to a slightly smaller amount of yarn usage for every single stitch. Or at least that's what the internet said. So I did that, and I managed most of the body, and I felt like, okay, given how much is done in the body and how much I have left, I should be good for the sleeves. But also for the sleeves, I'm quite short, I'm 5 feet tall, so where it tells you to do like 7 sets of decreases or increases or whatever, I ended up doing 6, or maybe the number was like 8 to 7, but I remember I removed 1 set of repeats less, and what that meant for me was I cut my sleeves short by like 2 inches, which is crazy because when I block this sleeve is still pretty like full length on me. I don't feel like I shortened this sleeve whatsoever, and it's actually a little long, you can see, because it's getting like kind of wrinkly, and on her it kind of goes out like this and doesn't fall that much, but I'm really happy with the final result. I think the Sunday sweater, it's listed as like a beginner pattern. It's one of the like first sweaters you can make. I'm obviously not obviously, but I don't necessarily dislike the look of the sweater. I just wanted something easy and that would knit it relatively quickly, and I didn't want it to be another ranunculus because I felt like I had too much yardage for a ranunculus, but not enough for like a traditional, I don't know, I just like wasn't sure that I was gonna have enough for like a better sweater. So I did this, and yeah, I think up close, it's not perfect. Like I don't really like the look of these increases. I just don't think they're super tidy. From far away, you can definitely get the sunburst effect of the sweater without really picking up on all of the like issues. When you look at the actual Sunday sweater photo image that, you know, petiteknit makes, or she's designated as a sample image, you can see that the same issues exist in the yoke. Like the purl bumps are a little uneven, you know, the increases are visible. It's just not a perfectly symmetrical, like, you know, the transition from like 2 stitches to 3 stitches on the stockinette area, like it's not completely, yeah, it doesn't look commercially made, I guess that's the thing. And so far this is the least commercial product I've made from petiteknit, because I think most of the stuff that she makes doesn't even look handmade. It looks like you could buy it in a store. But this one looks pretty handmade. It still looks really professional and like clean and polished and nice. And I didn't do the double folded collar, I just did the regular collar, and I knit it, I think I actually knit it to what she specified. Maybe it was like a hair shorter, but I didn't know if I wanted to do a folded over collar or not. And I didn't do anything to make it stretchy, so I just did the regular cast on, long tail cast on, and then I did the regular knitting, and I was a little worried it was going to look messy, but I actually think it looks, you know, fine. And it was definitely small, but I pulled it over my ginormous head, and my head is like 23 inches around, so it's a huge, huge dome that I've got going on here. But it fit over my head, and then as I kept trying it on and trying it on, it started to stretch out. So now it's no longer like any tighter than any other, like, you know, mock neck or relatively high neck shirt that I wear. But I like it, and I also actually really enjoy binding off in pattern. I actually might try to do that a little bit more. I think it looks neater than my Italian sewn bind-offs. Yeah, I don't know if my Italian sewn bind-off technique is just like really ass, but every time I do it, I like that it's stretchy, but I don't like the effect. Like, it doesn't really look that good. It's not as neat as I would like it to look. So maybe next time I'm just going to bind off in pattern. But I think that's all I have for this. Yeah, that's all I have. I like it. I think it's cute. There's nothing to say about it besides it's been a cute little office sweater. It's really squishy. I really enjoy working with this yarn. The next time I purchase this yarn, I might, yeah, I think when I finished using the Briggs & Little yarn, I was really excited because I thought, wow, like you get so much like softness and the wool is so plush and it's so lovely, and they have new colors now because they used to only do undyed colors, and I'm not a huge fan of like natural shades of yarn. Not because I don't like what they look like, but I don't think they're super flattering on me. I think I really need more punchiness in my colors and stuff. So for me, like a taupe or a brown or like a creamy white is just like not usually in my color palette. But when I found out they did these, I was really excited. So I wanted to immediately buy more, obviously. After having done this, I realized the biggest issue for me is that they're plied in kind of like a 5-strand plate. And it is really, really frustrating to get that out. And especially because it's 5, you can't really evenly split that. Like there's nothing I can really do with 5 strands. Like when you split it, it's going to be 2 and 3 no matter how you cut it, or like 2, 2, 1. But like having 1 on its own is not ideal because then it breaks off. And then having 2 and 2 is even, but then what do you do with the last one? And then if you have 2 and 3, then you have to find a way to use 2 strands in one project and 3 strands in another. So I just wish they didn't do it with an odd number of strands. I wish they just did like 6 if you're going to do something super bulky, or honestly just do 4. You know, it's already kind of different from the other stuff on the market, so it would differentiate you, because a lot of the other brands do like 1 in the middle and then 1 on the sides, and so that would be 2 strands. So yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, I wish they had done it in a different way, because now I'm not going to be super inclined to use the Briggs & Little stuff, even though I enjoy the product and I think it's really pleasant and it creates a really nice puffy and soft garment that is incredibly warm and not scratchy. I mean, it definitely feels woolly, like it's a very woolly wool. If someone who is not super accustomed to wearing wool is used to it, they're definitely going to be a little bit like, oh my god, how the hell do you wear that? That's really itchy. But for me, I really like this feeling, and I don't think it's super sensitive. And I'm like right around the corner of my period where my skin is just like really hypersensitive to stuff, and I get really overstimulated very easily, and I have sensory issues as it is. So if I can handle this, but then again, I don't have like a wool sensitivity, but generally my skin can be pretty prickly this time of the month, and like I just like am like sensorially triggered by a lot of stuff, and I'm wearing this fine on bare skin. Like I'm not wearing anything underneath this, and it's totally fine for me. So I'm really pleased with this finished object. I'm also pleased with how quickly it came off the needles. Granted, I was knitting like a madwoman, and I really enjoy not decreasing on a sleeve. Like I really enjoyed knitting and increasing on a sleeve, and then doing DPNs just for the really, really tiny cuff, because that means that I don't have to do the like yanking around on like a tiny, tiny needle. I was able to knit like 99% of this on 16 inches and then just bind off really quickly, and that was very, very pleasant. And I might do a balloon sleeve like this more often just so I can avoid the feeling of decreasing throughout the sleeve. I really don't like that process. So this was nice. I enjoy this, and I think it's quite a feminine and cutesy silhouette. Okay, I also did some sewing, so I have a couple of finished objects that are sewing related. First of all, I made these little oven mitts. These are made from a scrap material, and besides the oven mitts, I actually am like 99% done with these placemats as well. These are also quilted oven mitts, or quilted placemats and quilted oven mitts. This fabric was originally meant to be part of a winter dress, and I really liked it. I bought it at Joann's because it was on clearance. I think it was like 80% off. And then I also have one of those, you know, like take, you know, $5 off 35 or whatever. So I had some crazy deals, and I didn't know what to do with it for a while. I just knew that I really liked this color scheme, and this gingham is really, really cute because it's almost like painted on. It's like a watercolor gingham. So yeah, just really cute, 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 cute. And I was trying to get back into sewing, and I thought like this might be a really nice combination of projects. So it was an apron, I think a hot plate. Last week I showed you the hot plate, and then I did the oven mitts, and I did 2 layers of batting, 2 layers of cotton, and then a lining on the inside with just like a scrap fabric we had at home. This was a pair of old cotton sheets that we weren't using, and they didn't fit our mattress anyway, so it wasn't like, it was just a style thing. And I used a Commercial McCall's pattern, and it was in that big bundle. These are too big for me, but they are perfect for my husband. And they're cute. Like the shape is a little dinky. Like I don't know why the shape is this way. It's just not a very dignified like oven mitt, but we use them to take things in and out of our like hot, very, very large toaster oven. It's somewhere between like a mini regular oven, but way too big to be a regular toaster oven. So it's like a big boy, and you need like some beefy mitts. Not great for like long-term holding. I put so many layers of stuff in here, but I didn't use the Insulbright or whatever the insulating polyester batting is. I just had a ton of quilting batting at home that I wanted to use up, and also I just don't think my machine could have handled even more batting. These don't have hooks because I never hang my my mitts. I just leave them on top of our little toaster oven, and they match our matcha bar themed kitchen. So even though I haven't finished the reno in our kitchen for that, these little guys definitely are on theme. I need to give them a wash because they're already dirty. One, the fabric is not heat resistant, so I think there's something about the cotton. It is 100% cotton, but it's already getting like a little burnt. And then two, what was I gonna say? The inside is okay. So I thought the inside was gonna like melt, but it's been okay even though it's polyester batting and just layers of cotton in the middle. So that hasn't really been an issue, but yeah, it's just, it's a little gunky already, but I enjoy them. I think they're cute. And I kind of like that they're white on the bottom. And I have been seeing so many gift guides for the holiday season, and Damson Matter, I think, has a like a kitchen set. They have like an apron and placemats and, you know, oven mitts. And I thought maybe it'd be cute to put a little bit of like bric-a-brac on the bottom, or maybe some like lace. But yeah, after I hemmed these, I realized that this cuff is like 16 layers of fabric because you've got like several layers of batting, several layers of lining, you've got like the quilting fabric, and then you've also hemmed it, so you fold it over a few times, and it's just too thick to do anything else with. Like if I want to do a little ribbon trim, I might do like hot glue. Like that's the level that we're at this point. But I also made the same fabric, this rescued fabric that got stained with a whole bunch of stuff, like can't be used on clothing anymore, so I turned it into home stuff. And now we've also got two little placemats. These are missing bias binding on the edges, so I'm thinking of going to purchase some, yeah, either some, you know, traditional bias binding, or maybe I will make some bias binding, but probably I'll just buy some because I don't want to make it. I think I'm probably going to do navy. I think navy will be pretty tidy and neat. And if I can't find navy, I'll do like a dark green or something. But these are just two standard size placemats that we have in our home, and I just use them to pretty much trace out some new designs. And I like that they're quilted, so they're pretty like sturdy and thick. They don't feel super cheap or anything. And these are also just made with polyester batting in the middle. I have a ton of that polyester batting. I'm trying to get through it really quickly. And then I also made a cushion cover for my rocking chair. So I thrifted a rocking chair from the Habitat for Humanity Restore location, which is like an amazing, amazing place to get secondhand furniture. Highly recommend. And it came with a cushion that was like uncleanable. Like it didn't have a zip or anything, but it seemed like a really nice pillow cushion, and it didn't smell bad or anything. So I've just entrapped it in another one. So I had some of this beautiful plaid, I think plaid, kind of like a Midwestern man's shirt. So I pretty much just cut out a shape and I turned it into a cushion, and I did a little bit of that, like sew down the little tufted sections. I don't know if you can really see it, but now it matches a little bit better, and I like that it's clean fabric. You know, I'm sitting on clean fabric, and my cat likes it too, which is why it's covered in fur. And then the other finished objects I have are my knitting pouches. So these are my maybe the label project bags. I don't know if I showed you these last time, but I did finally finish my, these are both the large size, and then I kind of just altered the shape by changing how wide I wanted the base to be. So for this first one, I made the base pretty wide. It's almost like a makeup bag because it's pretty rectangular on the bottom. And then for this one, it's just a tiny little pouch. It's not as wide on the bottom, and the seams are lined up much better on my second one compared to my first one. So that is just a, like a note of pride, but yeah, these are both too small to be used for sweaters. They were advertised as sweater project bags, but I think Mippy is just like a much smaller girl than I am, so I cannot put sweaters in here. I can only put like maybe scarves, or I mean, it might be too big for mittens, but like probably a scarf or a shawl or something like that, or maybe a hat. And that's really all I would feel comfortable doing. But they are really functional. Just a nice little zip. First time I've used a zip. You know, I put my Aimee sweater in here when I was really little. This one is lined with this cute little polka dot fabric, and the other one is lined with just some scrap cotton that I had from my old pillowcase. So it's not anything like that matches or anything. But it's okay. I mean, this is a functional item. I like that it has a zip. I like that, you know, if I were to travel with my knitting, my needles won't come out, which, speaking of tragic story of my needles coming out, I lost an entire set of Lantern Moon needles, like an entire set of $200 knitting needles, fell out of one of my tote bags, rolled out of the car, and now is completely missing. I was traveling and I brought it with me to knit while I was away in Boston, and I had a bunch of knitting projects, you know, in a tote bag ready to go, and so I brought the entire thing with me because I thought if I want to cast something on, if I want to finish my projects, and of course, like sometimes you need to change needles mid-project, and it literally just like fell out. So yeah, very, very tragic to have lost such an expensive and like bougie set of knitting needles, and I never even use them on a regular basis because they feel too precious to use. So it's one of those things where like you really just can't have nice things. Or like if you have nice things, you really can't treasure them for like special moments, because if you do, your cost per use for them will like just be ridiculous, because I think I used those like 3 or 4 times and then the whole thing got lost. So yeah, very, very expensive lesson to learn. Yeah, just tragic, sad loss. Like I don't really have, yeah, I don't really have that much room to like mourn or like feel bad about it, because it's like, you know, like what am I gonna do? Okay, I had a work thing come up, so give me a minute to do that. I think we can finally move on to whips now. Right, so in terms of whips, since the last time I saw you, I had only done the shoulder. Oh my god, stop messaging me. Alright. Yeah, since the last time we had talked, I had done the left shoulder and the front of the cardigan number 9, and now that we are here, I finished the entire body, and also the entire button band and the entire bottom ribbing. So this is now the official cardigan number 9. So she looks like this. I would try it on, but I'm not wearing anything underneath the sweater, so you're not going to get that. But when I finish this next week, you'll definitely see it. Again, this is one of those unspun projects. It's made in nutiden, 2 strands of mohair. It's like a green yarn with a icy blue mohair, and I think it came out to be really, really cute. I love this color, not because it's like super flattering on me or anything, but because it just reminds me of winter for some reason. Very cute, very festive. I was thinking of dressing it up with these little sparkly buttons because they feel very wintry and festive to me. And also they are buttons that my grandma and I both have like matching taste in, which I thought was really cute because we both have the same, like we went to Joann's and bought the same buttons. We were thinking the same thing. So that's what that would look like if I put that on there, and it matches this buttonhole size perfectly, which was a limiting factor. I didn't want to do a different type of buttonhole, mostly because I've never done a cardigan before, which like maybe is silly because I am also making the bluebird cardigan. But yeah, let me try to pin this together just so you can get the idea, because holding it like this is kind of miserable. But yeah, I haven't made the button band on my other cardigan yet, so as far as I'm aware, this is like my first finished cardigan where I got this far. I did do a vest once, and that vest did have buttons, but I didn't really, I don't know, that one's not something, not that I don't care about that piece, but it's just not one that I wear for fashion. Like I wear it because I like the yarn and I like the project and I like that I did it, and I'm proud of myself. But yeah, that one had kind of a slipshod button job. Like I did the buttons according to a tutorial online instead of what was in the pattern, because what was in pattern didn't match what I had, and because I did that, I don't think it came out like as close to what I wanted it to look like. So yeah, this time I followed the pattern and we're using a limited thing. But yeah, it looks like this. It just looks like a little vest right now. And I will say, because the yarn I chose is green and the shape of the buttons that she wants is what, 22 millimeters, I had limited options for what buttons to pick. So I'm glad that I ended up using some that I had in my stash, because otherwise it would have been really difficult to find something. I went to Joann's and I couldn't find any buttons that I liked at all that were the right shape and size, and certainly not anything that came in a pack of like 5 or 6, because yes, there were like fancy buttons that looked good, but those were, you know, one of those, you know, you buy 2 at a time buttons for $5, and I wasn't going to spend $20 on buttons. So yeah, this is what we have. I'm hoping to finish up by next week. I don't know, or like next podcast, so like 2 weeks from now, basically neckline and then arms, and that'll be it. And I also forgot to mention that I finally sewed in tags for every single one of my sweaters. So I think I used up, what, like 7 or 8 tags already. And I wanted all the tags to match. So this one says made under moonlight, and they all kind of have the same like tag. And I thought it'd be cute to kind of have the different woven labels seasonally. So every, I don't know how long it would take me to make 8 sweaters, but maybe like every half year, let's say I make 8 sweaters. Every half year I could have, you know, such and such label that kind of reminds me of like what sweaters I made in what order. So yeah, this one has the sweater, or this sweater has that tag, this one has that tag, this one has that tag. You know, my ranunculus and my bluebird cardigan and my Luma sweater. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. But we have finally actually used all those tags. So from my next FO onwards, we're going to have like a new season of tags, and I'll have to show you guys what I end up picking. But that's my first whip. Next, I have my Aimee sweater, which I think is under my work table. So let me go grab that. Bluebird cardigan. This one is kind of not a UFO at this point, but I haven't made any progress, I think, since the last episode. I think, I finished the sleeve and I finished the ribbing on the sleeve. I don't remember if I said that last time, but my husband is borrowing my 4.5 millimeter shorties, so I cannot finish this part of the sleeve until he is done with his weekend hat. So I'm going to have, I don't know, probably 3 weeks before I can come back to this one. And I'm not super like urgent about this, you know, cardigan. It's not something that I feel like I'm going to wear all that often. I mean, I love the yoke and I love the way that it presents on camera. I think it's really cute, but it is a little bit of like a traditional aesthetic. Like it's a very classic hand knit, and yeah, it's just not like super contemporary. Like I like the color scheme. I like that I chose like a brown and a pink. I think it's very cute, but if I were to do it again, I might have chosen black and white or maybe something colorful. Yeah, I was thinking of making this again, but in a really, really contemporary color scheme, like maybe pink and red or pink and green, and doing it extremely cropped and having contrast trim, because then it could be like a cute little winter thing. I don't know, but I really enjoyed the color work part. I thought this was really fun. The rest of it was kind of a slog, and because the color work part was so short, I felt like my fun was kind of, it was truncated a little bit. I would have enjoyed it to go on a little bit longer. And then the last thing, I again showed this in my winter knitting video, but this is the ribbon sweater by no.9, and I only did a tiny bit on the back. It is hard to do. It is like a difficult knit. It's 3-stranded color work. I'm also knitting with a lot of yarn held double, so the bag is just like, it's a big chunky thing to carry around. I'm also carrying the yarn, so I always have to have like every single ball of yarn with me, and I haven't even used all the colors because once I get further along, I'm going to have 5 or 6 different colors. Not to mention that a lot of those colors will be held double because I am using scrap yarns for this, but I had almost every single color in stash already from what the kind of sample photo was made in. So it just felt like it had to be. I really, really like the look of the finished product. I don't like the process of the finished product, and especially because so much of this is knitted flat, and it's just hard to read the chart. But because I already did so much of it, I kind of have a feeling of a repeat, and it's going to get, like, the more I work on it and persist, the closer I will get to just joining in the round and being able to work on it more mindlessly, because, yeah, it's fine. I really, really dreaded color work flat because of the chart inversions that you have to do, but I realized this was a lot easier than my pressed flowers project, because the pressed flowers project, not only are you knitting back and forth, so you have to invert the chart from purls to knits, and you know your increases have to be like make one right, make one left purl, you know, whatever, but you also are changing textures because the flowers are stockinette, but the base is like a slip stitch design. So on the Amy Christopher's, you know, projects, you're dealing with not only color changes, but also texture changes and also symbol changes. And that was like way too much stuff for me to do like as a beginner. It's a miracle that I didn't like mess up that shawl more. My numbers were wrong, but like the actual pattern itself ended up being pretty successful. And I can't imagine like being, what, 3 months into knitting and being like, yeah, I'm gonna knit this, because everyone said it was easy, but really there were too many things going on. So in comparison to that shawl, this is like so much easier, but I think I've just been so spoiled by simpler, faster projects that have like a higher return on like dopamine that even sitting down to do something like mildly challenging is difficult and frustrating for me right now. Okay, I guess the last thing would have to be that Amy sweater, so let me go grab it and I'll be right back. Okay, so since the last time we talked, I think I worked on this a ton. I don't really remember the last time we talked, but I think I had just joined in the round or something. And now we are, I think, 18 inches from the top back. And I wanted to do the full 19 inches before starting my 2x2 bind off, but I didn't have as much time at work to knit as I thought. I've been getting more and more stuff to do, and I can't really knit in some of these meetings because they're more involved. So yeah, boohoo, work is getting more complicated, but yeah, it just kind of looks like my little rainbow TV static sweater. I am dreading the ribbing because I think it's like 8 inches of ribbing on the bottom and then like 15 inches of ribbing on the top because you fold it in half and it's like a big chunky turtleneck or something. I took one look at it and was like, oh my god, this is going to be a nightmare. And I think it is going to be quite the nightmare. But the fabric is beautiful. She's nice and drapey. It is worsted weight Patons Classic with one strand of Rico design, make it tweed in the earthy colorway, which is like a pastel rainbow. And it's on 4mm needles, but it's still actually pretty drapey and pretty floofy. Like I thought it was going to be a little bit stiffer, but it's not that bad. I do hate working with this Rico design. You can see the inside is like full of loops because it just doesn't want to behave. So like sometimes you get like little extra bits and they stick out. So definitely one of my like least polished pieces like on the inside. And yeah, it's like also slippery, so it's constantly falling off of my needles. I don't enjoy this process. This is one of the knits that has been the hardest to get through despite being a super, super simple project. It's a raglan sweater. Also, surprisingly, my first raglan. Yeah, I don't know why it's my first raglan, but I guess I have started and stopped a lot of raglan projects, so this is the first time I got as far as I have. Okay, that may have just looked like me being really difficult about picking up my stitches, but I just had like the worst cramps. And they're causing me pain. Sometimes I have cramps so bad that I like literally cannot, like I can't talk and I can't do anything else. Okay, so for some reason that took me a really, really long time to get back on the needles. I don't know if this is just like extremely crowded or what, but I'm having such a hard time with this sweater and I'm really dreading the final thing. So yeah, this has just not been a fun process knit. Something about the Rico design yarn is miserable and I don't recommend it, so I will not be using this again for a long time. I think I need some distance from it, but I'm really excited for the finished object because I think it'll be quite practical. And I did mention this in the last video, but I'm a little upset that it's so... Yeah, the tweed is very tweedy, so it's going to be hard to see the 2x2 rib. I don't think it's going to be pretty obvious, so it's going to be so much statement ribbing, and then the statement is not really going to be made because you can see it on her version. It's like really nice and bright. She's doing it in a nice colorful olive, but I don't think I'm going to see it on mine, and that is disappointing. But I do have just this last ball that I've pre-wound, and then once I get through this, I'm going to have to wind some more yarn, which I have a ton of it. It's just that, yeah, I'm like not looking forward to it, that's all. Okay, and then two things that I'm not going to report on because I haven't done anything. They're my UFOs for now. One is that ribbon sweater from Augustin's. It's going to be the Northern Augustin's number 4. That one is my purple and black, kind of Anna Sui inspired sweater, and I have not touched it. It's going to be like a long while before I get to it, probably 2025. And then also my night and day cowl, which I also don't enjoy because it's a slip stitch design, and I don't like slip stitch designs. That is something that I have just come to understand about myself. I probably will finish it, but maybe not. Like, I might not finish it because I don't like it. That being said, I think when a project is like over the 50% mark, it's kind of silly to not finish because I already spent so much time. Yeah, like the increasing portion is the harder portion, and then by the time I get to the decreasing portion, it's downhill from there. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's just like some emotional friction between myself and that project, but I'll maybe get to it eventually. And then things that I want to do in the future, I have a full video on stuff that I want to make, but there are two things that I didn't include. One is a pair of alma mittens, and I wanted to do that in the hot pink that I have here because I have just enough to make the mittens. I don't have it, I guess it rolled off of my couch, but I have enough of the hot pink to make a pair. I'm not sure if I want to do it in hot pink and black or hot pink and brown, so that is still kind of on the table because like I mentioned in that previous video, I have a overcoat that I mostly wear in winter that is dark brown, and so I think the hot pink and the brown would match my coat more often. But in terms of like my personal aesthetic, I definitely think black is a color that I enjoy more. Like everything that I've knit in brown so far, like I kind of do, I don't want to say against my will. It's like a reluctant make. Like I do think brown is a practical knit. I think it makes your wardrobe more versatile, and I think it creates a different vibe and energy than black, but I don't really find it a compelling or interesting color to knit with. Like so many people are really loving chocolate brown this season, and I'm just not one of those girls. Like I like it from afar, but I don't really think I like to knit with it. And then the second thing that I want to knit is a long scarf. Now, the Berlin scarf by Suzanne Mueller is one that has been like talked about again and again, but for whatever reason, like no one seems to enjoy knitting it. Like everyone knits it and then everyone kind of says, yeah, and I hated the process. So I was thinking of knitting a similar type of tasseled scarf, but I was going to use this YouTube tutorial from someone that is making a double knitted version of it. So the couple of like long, wide, you know, classic commercial fringe scarves that I've seen. One is the Kilometer scarf by Florence Miller. I live across a car dealership, so they're constantly bringing in shipments of like ginormous cars, and it's very frustrating. But the Kilometer scarf is one, and then the Berlin scarf is another, and then I think that's pretty much all for the scarves that kind of dupe or like draw inspiration from those commercial knit scarves. But for free is a pattern on YouTube where she makes it double knitted, so it's not a tube like the other ones. It is just like a super scrunchy like double knit button band kind of texture, and it does have the traditional fringe, and I am kind of dreading it because I do know that everyone says that the fringe is the worst part, but it is just like the same as the rest of it. It's like double knitting, so you do the whole body double knitting, and it's like as long as your body or whatever, and then you do like 6 inches of fringe, and she sets it up to be like 4 4 4 4 4. And that seems fine, I think. I mean, obviously I don't know how this process will be. I don't know if I will enjoy knitting a scarf that is like 160 centimeters long or whatever. I have never knit a scarf. Like, I have never knit a long scarf. I've crocheted scarves before, and I like crochet, and crochet goes pretty fast, so for me I haven't really found that to be too frustrating. But I really want one of those like Acme style scarves that are like really big, really plush. I have a ton of drops air that I just really need to use up, and I think that would be pretty useful because I bought a Bowie Sweaters quantity of drops air, which is what, like 2,000 yards of it, and it's way too much. So I think it'd be nice to make a nice long scarf and see how that goes. I might maybe cast on for a swatch and see, because that's a kind of a low effort version of whether or not I might like that project, because I know it's going to be a long time coming to do it, and drops air is pretty soft, so like I think it should be good. And then in terms of other things that I want to do to finish up, I want to do my apron and project bag for my husband. I want to finish the other Sanrio project bags that I have, and yeah, there's just a bunch of like knitting things. That entire winter knitting queue is also stuff that I want to do for winter time. Obviously I won't be able to do what, like 35 projects over the span of like a couple months, but it's definitely going to be like a little pick and choose kind of menu situation there. And then I think I already talked about all of my acquisitions, except for one crazy acquisition I got while I was in Boston. And yeah, let me show you that, because that is like the craziest part of this trip. Okay, this is my drops air that I'm thinking of maybe using. But if you can see this stash of La Bien Aimee, I got 9 skeins of La Bien Aimee, and you might be thinking, like, you just said you were on a yarn ban? Like, yes, but also you would do this too if you were me. This is all merino DK. It's superwash yarn, which I don't love, but I have never worked with La Bien Aimee before, and it's a brand that I obviously am really excited to use because, hello, it's so beautiful. I've been waiting to cake these up because I want to do a fade. I got 2 skeins of the color Vespa Graffiti, which is a beautiful teal. It's so cute. I don't own anything that's teal color, and I don't know if it is like my shade, TBD, but this is one. And then the next one I got was 3 skeins of Vespiopia, which is this really interesting speckled color. It's got greens, it's got silvers, so you're definitely seeing that same teal, but with more speckles inside. And some of these speckles are like really rich and interesting. Indigos, purples, teals, like I love that speck right there. This part is a little bit more indigo-y. Then we fade into 2 skeins of this stuff, which is Drea, like short for Andrea, I guess. Or maybe there's a different Drea that I don't know. But this is more gray, less blue. And you're starting to add like some more rainbow speckles. So definitely seeing the same green and teal, but now more yellow and orange. And I'm actually seeing more of that yellow and orange on the bottom here. 2 skeins of this. And then the last one is 2 skeins of the color Cassiopeia. And this one is just gray. So we don't see any of that warm, and we don't see any of that teal anymore. And just this kind of like purplish charcoal speckle throughout. So much more monochrome, this one. I don't think there's any yellow in here. And this whole stash here cost me $40 because it was a donation to Boston Fiber Co. And they have a secondhand shelf where you can buy donated yarns, or, you know, yarns that people are no longer using. And a lot of them are like kind of like one skeins or like scraps, right? Like what you would expect from like a nice yarn store to have at their kind of like secondhand donation center. Like I basically think that whatever was there already, like save for this stuff, was already pretty good because you're dealing with like usually nicer yarns. They didn't really have that much acrylic, but they did have like wool blends, cotton blends, you know, like one-off skeins basically. I didn't really find any repeats. There were a lot of like sock yarns that people were just like, maybe they had an extra sock yarn they didn't want, but someone brought in an entire tub of yarn. And I was like, are you sure this is $5? And she was like, yeah, like go ahead. So it was $45, but we had a coupon, so it was like actually crazy. And the lady who was working there was saying that someone had purchased 1. So there were 10 skeins that someone had donated for free. Like they were just like dropping them off. And she was like, yeah, I wonder if someone had like passed away or something, because like this is just really, really nice yarn, and they just maybe didn't want to deal with selling it because this definitely could sell for more. I mean, these yarns are what, like I think $38 at my local yarn store. So yeah, like do the math, I got them for like 90% off. And I don't know what to make with them. I've never made a fade before. I think these would be beautiful. I mean, there clearly are supposed to be a fade, or I so clearly see a fade here because it goes from, right, like it goes from teal to mixed teal to warm teal gray to just gray. So like that to me, it looks like a pretty clear fade. So I'm thinking I want to make like a stockinette sweater and just kind of have it be like a nice fade. I don't know what it would be though. And I also don't like DK weight yarn. I don't hate it, but it is like a little thin for my preferences. I'm definitely more of a like Aran weight girly. So I was thinking maybe I could do another cardigan number 9 or a different like my favorite things knitwear, like a chunkier sweater, and just kind of hold them double. And then that way I could also fade a little bit easier. I know you're supposed to stripe. So like you do A and then B, A, B, A, B, 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 C, B, C, B, C, B, C, 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 D, C, D, C, E, right? Like, so you kind of fade it in and out like that. But I think if I'm holding 2 yarns together, it'll be a lot easier to fade without having to do the striping, like the helical knitting thing. I could just do A, then AB, and then just B, and then BC, and then CD, and then just D. Like, I'm thinking that's how that could work. I've never done a fade before, but like logically in my head, like that makes sense. And because these skeins are all like separated anyway, I can just wind them up into separate balls and then I won't really have an issue at all. So this is like very much so already something that is like the gears are turning in my head. It feels like it's making sense. I don't want it to be a cardigan, so cardigan number 9 is like out the window actually, because then I don't know how I would do a button band. But I do think it could be fun. My next question is, do I want this near my face or do I want this near my face? I definitely feel like the teal is definitely doing more for me than the gray, just because gray really is blah. Like next to my skin tone, it's fine. It's a neutral, but I just don't think it provides enough saturation for me, but I do think the teal would be cute. So I'm thinking it'll go like from teal to gray on the bottom. And then the other day, Millie started her own fade because she had a bunch of scraps, and hers is not the same color palette whatsoever. It's like greens and blues, and then I think like beige, but I think it came out really cute, and she did it with mohair. So I was thinking, do I want to hold this with a little bit of like a bluish mohair to tie everything together? So TBD, but I wanted to show you guys these yarns like in their skeins because they're so perfect. And of course everyone loves their like logo. It's so cute. Like what an adorable yarn band. And I am going to collage the shit out of this. Like I think this is going to be amazing for my art journal. But yeah, this was like the score of a century. Like I could not walk away. The yarn gods like really blessed me with this one. This was an amazing purchase, and obviously my husband, being the sweet boy that he is, bought me this stash. And I bought him a Noro yarn while we were on that trip to the Unruly Stitch, and that was his first Noro. He tried to make his weekend hat in that, and it was just a little bit too difficult to read his stitches because as a new knitter, it's really hard to do like your knits and purls differentiation when your yarn is so kind of like nubby and rustic, and you know, it doesn't really have like a really strong ply or anything. So yeah, I think this is going to be my plan. I haven't really knit a superwash garment before. I know you should block frequently, I guess, to see if it grows or anything like that. But for me, I think if I'm making an oversized sweater and it grows, like, so be it. I don't think that's really a big issue, especially because I have so much yardage. I think I calculated out like 2,000 yards. So if I hold it double, it'll be like 1,000 yards, and that's way more than I need to make a sweater. I think typically for like worsted Aran weight yarns, I usually do like around 700, 800 yards for a sweater that's like pretty oversized on me, and that's because I'm short and I have like short limbs, so it's like pretty good. Like I can knit a sweater pretty quickly. I think a lot of people are like, how do you knit so fast? Like how are you churning out these things so quickly? I'm small and I knit on big needles, so it's really easy. And I'm not even like skinny, but it's like I can't imagine if I were like a skinny queen, if I were like, I don't know, 25, 30 pounds lighter and I didn't make like super oversized garments. Like I could finish sweaters in like 5 days. So I guess a compelling reason to go to the gym and get like super fit would be that I could knit even more garments for myself. But yeah, I'm really excited to finally start that. I'm not really sure what pattern to look into. I think it might just be wise for me to do a gauge swatch first and then go backwards and look for something that has like the correct gauge swatch for my fabric. So that is everything, I think. Oh, I did unfortunate detail that I didn't mention is I don't know how to count this in my bingo board. I'll put up the bingo board now if you missed it. This is my no-buy/yarn tracking bingo board. Really, it's to help me kind of put together some intentions and goals for the new year. And then the side effect of that is ideally if I knit these things from stash, I will also have stashed down a significant amount of my yarn, and I can control my yarn consumption habits. Clearly that kind of went out the wazoo during Black Friday and when we went on our little vacation. But I'm still hopeful that, not hopeful, I guess that's not the right word. I am recommitted to kind of getting back on the bandwagon and making sure that I don't fall off just because something is pretty and shiny. I'm really kind of getting yarn fatigue. So it got to the point in the beginning where I was like, ooh, fun new yarn, this is fun, fun, fun. And then I bought a bunch of new yarn and I knit up a bunch of new yarn and I was like, oh, this is actually like stressful now. Like it's getting to the point where I'm stressed about this yarn. And I remember why I wanted to do this kind of like slowing down soft yarn ban or yarn buying rules, because yeah, like when you have this much yarn, it really does stress you out. When you have yarn bursting out of every corner in your home, it doesn't make you feel good. Like you don't enjoy this process, and it makes you feel like you need to knit at a frenetic pace so you can get through your yarn stash. And that's like not the way that knitting is supposed to feel. Like you're not supposed to feel stressed out about it. So it's kind of a good and bad thing. Like I love these yarns. I love that yarn clearly. Like it's an amazing deal and I don't regret buying it. But I do sometimes think like, oh yeah, we started this project for a reason. It's because you like the feeling of going through your stash. You like the feeling of using up the stuff that you paid good money for and that you like clearly don't have the spare money lying around to like buy, right? So yeah, I'm gonna be, you know, pulling back a little bit. I don't really know how I want to treat this though. Like, I don't know if I want to nullify my next 3 bingo purchases and basically say I need to fill up this board without buying any yarn, which I think I should feel comfortable doing just because I did buy so much yarn. So that is tentatively the answer. No yarn until I finish 90% of my bingo board. But yeah, that's currently the bingo board up here now. The other rule that I mentioned was when I'm knitting from, I don't know if I mentioned this, but when I'm knitting from stash, but I'm not meeting gauge, I can buy like mohair or something to supplement, but I can't buy more than 50% of a project's worth of yarn. So if I'm making a sweater and I need to, you know, use these yarns, but this yarn is not like hitting gauge, I can buy mohair, but it can't be more than whatever I already have, because then you're buying a new quantity's worth of yarn. So I think I mentioned that last time, but I'm not sure. That rule has worked well so far. I don't think I've ever enforced it. Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually like used it, but yeah, that was just something that I wanted to mention. And that is it. After this video, I think we're going to be talking about some goals for next year. It feels a little bit early, but we are already halfway through December, so it just feels like we need to start thinking about what we want to do next year. And that's both fun and a little bit scary. I might go back and take a peek at what my New Year's resolutions were for 2024 and see how I did, because I don't think I did too bad. I don't think I did... yeah, I didn't knit for most of the year. I think I knit for only half of the year, but even so, pretty pleased with what I did manage to do. So with that being said, I think that is everything for this update. I need to go fill out my timesheet and fix some errors, but after that, I think I will be back for another podcast in 2 weeks. So thank you so much for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye now.